Last year, I was on top of the world. I was about to be promoted to creative director at one of the biggest advertising agencies in New York, and I was 2 months away from marrying the woman I loved for 6 years. My best friend, Jake, the guy who had been by my side since college, was supposed to be my best man. Then one Monday morning, I walked into the office and discovered that the promotion I had worked my ass off for had been given to Jake instead. That same week, my fiancée, Emily, sat me down and told me she was leaving me for him. In the span of 7 days, I lost my dream job, my future wife, and the person I thought was my brother. I thought my life was over. Until 6 months later, when I discovered something that turned everything upside down and made both of them regret the day they betrayed me. My name is Alex. I'm 34 years old. I work, or used to work, as a senior copywriter at Horizon Creative, one of the top advertising agencies in Manhattan. I've been there for 8 years, grinding my way up from the bottom. Late nights, weekends, endless pitches. I lived and breathed that job. My fiancée, Emily, was a graphic designer at the same agency. We met at a company happy hour 6 years ago and fell hard. She was smart, funny, ambitious, and understood the insane hours we both worked. Everyone said we were the perfect power couple. And then there was Jake. Jake had been my best friend since freshman year at NYU. We roomed together, partied together, survived breakups together. He joined the agency 2 years after me and quickly became the golden boy, charming in meetings, great with clients, always the life of the party. I was happy for him. I genuinely was. I introduced him to Emily. I helped him get his first big campaign. I was the one who pushed for him to get raises. I never saw it coming. It started with small things I brushed off. Jake and Emily texting a lot about work stuff. Jake suddenly knowing details about our wedding plans that I hadn't told him. Emily coming home later than usual, smelling like the cologne Jake always wore. Then came the day that shattered everything. I was in a meeting with the executive team when our CEO, Margaret, announced the new creative director position. I had been the frontrunner for months. I had led the last 3 major campaigns that brought in millions. Everyone expected it to be me. Margaret smiled and said, "After careful consideration, we've decided to promote Jake Thompson to creative director." The room clapped. I sat there stunned, feeling like someone had punched me in the gut. That same evening, Emily asked me to meet her at our favorite wine bar after work. She looked nervous. She wouldn't look me in the eyes. "Alex, I need to tell you something." She told me she had fallen in love with Jake. That it had been going on for almost a year. That she was sorry, but she couldn't marry me anymore. She said Jake made her feel alive, in a way I never could. I sat there, wine glass in hand, feeling the world collapse around me. The next morning, I went into the office to resign. I couldn't stay there. Not with both of them. But the worst part came when I was cleaning out my desk. Jake walked up to me, looking almost guilty, but not enough. "Bro, I'm really sorry. It just happened. You know how these things go." I looked at the man who had been my best friend for 15 years and felt nothing but emptiness. "You took my job. You took my fiancé. And you're standing here telling me these things just happen?" He shrugged. "Life's competitive, man. You taught me that." I left the building that day and didn't look back. The following months were hell. I moved into a small 1-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn. I started freelancing to pay the bills. I barely ate. I drank too much. I avoided all mutual friends because everyone seemed to have taken their side. "It just happened," they said. "You can't blame them for falling in love." But the person who hurt me the most was myself. How did I not see it? How did I trust them both so completely? How did I spend years building a life with people who could stab me in the back so easily? I thought the lowest point was behind me. Until 6 months later, when I received an email from an unknown address. The subject line was, "You deserve to know the truth." Inside was a single screenshot. It was a text conversation between Jake and Emily from 2 years ago, long before they fell in love. "Emily, if you can get Alex out of the way for the creative director role, I'll make sure you get everything you want from me. Jake, deal? I'll start planting doubts about his leadership this week." My hands started shaking. They hadn't just fallen in love. They had planned this. They had deliberately taken my career and my relationship together. And they thought I would never find out. That was the moment something inside me changed. The heartbroken, defeated man who had lost everything was gone. In his place was someone cold, clear-headed, and determined. They took my life. Now I was going to take theirs back. That email changed everything. I sat in my small Brooklyn apartment, staring at the screenshot until the words blurred. The timestamp was from 2 years ago, long before Jake fell in love with Emily, long before the promotion, long before everything fell apart. They hadn't just betrayed me. They had planned it. I spent the entire night reading every message I could find. Emily had forwarded some old chats to herself before deleting them from her phone. In them, Jake bragged about how he was slowly undermining me at work, spreading subtle doubts about my leadership, taking credit for my ideas in meetings, even leaking small mistakes to our boss. Emily's replies were even colder. If you can push him out of the director position, I'll make sure you get everything you want from me. I'm tired of playing the supportive fiancé. I want the life he promised me, but with someone who actually deserves it. I felt sick. The woman I was ready to marry, the man I called my brother, they had been scheming behind my back for years, treating my life like a game they could win. The next morning, I didn't go to any freelance meetings. Instead, I started digging. I hired a private investigator, a quiet, expensive guy named Reynolds who specialized in corporate and personal betrayals. I gave him everything I had, the screenshot, old emails, access to shared drives I still had from the agency. Within 10 days, he delivered a thick folder. It was worse than I imagined. Jake hadn't just taken my promotion. He had been systematically sabotaging me for over 2 years, deleting files, changing deadlines on projects I was leading, even forwarding my client emails to himself so he could save the accounts at the last minute. Emily had been feeding him information about my personal life, my insecurities, my fears about not being good enough, even the fights we had about money and future plans. They had been a team. And I had been the fool who trusted them both. The worst discovery came in the last page of the report. There was a joint bank account in Jake and Emily's names. They had been saving money together for over a year, money that included bonuses Jake received from campaigns that were originally mine. They were planning to get married next spring. I sat on the floor of my apartment surrounded by papers and felt something inside me shift. The pain was still there, raw and deep. But alongside it was a cold, crystal-clear anger. I wasn't going to scream or confront them in a dramatic scene. I was going to be smarter. I started small. I reached out to a few former colleagues I still trusted. I didn't badmouth Jake. I simply shared interesting screenshots and asked if they had noticed anything strange. Word spread quickly in the tight-knit advertising world. Within a month, Horizon Creative started getting uncomfortable questions from clients about Jake's leadership style and ethics. I also quietly applied for a senior position at a rival agency, one that had been trying to poach me for years. This time, I went in with a completely different energy. I wasn't the nice, reliable guy anymore. I was sharp, confident, and hungry. They offered me the job on the spot, with a higher title and better salary than what Jake had taken from me. But the real turning point came when I found the one thing they feared most. In the investigator's files was a series of emails between Jake and a junior designer named Lena. In them, Jake had promised her a promotion in exchange for certain favors. It was clear sexual harassment, and there were screenshots of inappropriate messages. I didn't send them to HR. I sent them to Lena herself, anonymously, with a simple note. "You deserve better." And so did I. 2 days later, Lena filed a formal complaint against Jake. The agency launched an internal investigation. Jake panicked. He started calling me nonstop, leaving voicemails that went from apologetic to angry to desperate. "Alex, please. We can fix this. We're brothers, man." I never picked up. Emily tried too. She showed up at my apartment one evening, eyes red from crying. "Alex, I made a mistake. I was confused. I still love you." I looked at the woman I once planned to spend my life with and felt nothing but pity. "You didn't make a mistake, Emily. You made a choice. Now live with it. I closed the door. As the weeks passed, things began to unravel for them. Jake was put on leave pending the investigation. Clients started pulling accounts. Emily was sidelined at work because everyone knew she was involved. Meanwhile, I was thriving. My new role gave me creative freedom I had never had before. I started mentoring younger creatives. I even got my first feature in Adage. But the sweetest moment came on a random Tuesday afternoon. I received a message from an unknown number. It was from Jake. I lost everything. The job. The clients. Emily left me when the pressure got too much. I have nothing left. I'm sorry, Alex. I really am. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back one line. You took my life. I just took it back. I blocked the number. That night, I sat on my balcony with a beer, looking out over the Brooklyn skyline. I thought about the man I used to be, the one who trusted too easily, who wanted everyone to like him, who believed hard work and loyalty were enough. That man was gone. In his place was someone wiser. Someone who understood that sometimes the people closest to you are the ones who can hurt you the most. But also someone who had learned that when you lose everything, you finally have the freedom to build something better. Olivia, wait, no, in this story it's just me, I smiled to myself. The game wasn't over. It had only just begun. The fall of Jake and Emily happened faster than I expected. Within 3 weeks of Lena filing the complaint, Horizon Creative was in chaos. 2 more junior staff came forward with similar stories. Clients started pulling contracts. The board launched a full investigation. Jake was suspended indefinitely. Emily, who had been quietly promoted to senior designer after I left, was also put under review because of the text messages proving she had helped sabotage me. I watched it all from afar, not with joy, but with a strange, hollow feeling. This was what I had wanted, justice. But it didn't feel like victory. It felt like the end of a chapter one never asked to close. One rainy Thursday evening, my phone rang. It was Emily. I almost didn't answer. But something made me pick up. Her voice was raw, broken. Alex, I'm so sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me. I need you to know that I regret everything. Jake manipulated me. He made me believe you were holding me back. He made me believe we were better together. I leaned against the kitchen counter, listening to her cry. You chose him, Emily. You chose to betray me for a promotion and a fantasy. Don't put that on him now that it's falling apart. She sobbed harder. I know. I was weak. I was greedy. I thought the grass was greener. But it wasn't. It was poison. There was a long silence. Then she whispered, He's telling everyone it was all my idea. That I seduced him to get ahead. He's throwing me under the bus to save himself. I closed my eyes. Of course he was. That was Jake, always the survivor, always the one who landed on his feet. I didn't comfort her. I didn't yell at her. I simply said, You made your choices. Now you have to live with them. Just like I did. I hung up. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat on my balcony with a glass of whiskey and thought about the man I used to be, the one who believed loyalty and hard work were enough. The one who trusted too easily. That man was dead. In his place was someone colder. Sharper. Someone who understood that the world doesn't reward kindness. It rewards strategy. The final blow came 2 weeks later. I received an email from the agency's HR department. They had completed their investigation. Jake was being let go for serious violations of company policy. Emily was also terminated for her involvement in the sabotage. Attached was a formal apology letter from the CEO, offering me a substantial severance package and a glowing recommendation letter, in recognition of the unfair circumstances surrounding your departure. I stared at the email for a long time. Then I did something I never thought I would do. I forwarded the entire thread to Jake and Emily, with one simple line. You took my life. I just took it back. I blocked both of them. The next morning, I woke up feeling lighter than I had in over a year. I had a new job offer from a boutique agency that valued creativity over politics. The salary was higher. The team was smaller. The work felt meaningful again. But the real change wasn't in my career. It was in me. I started going to therapy. Not to heal the pain, but to understand it. To make sure I never again gave someone else the power to destroy me so completely. I also started writing. Not for work. For myself. I began a private journal where I poured out everything. The betrayal, the rage, the grief, the slow rebuilding. One day I thought I might turn it into something public. A book. A podcast. A warning to others. But for now it was just for me. One quiet Sunday afternoon, I was sitting in a small cafe near my apartment when I saw her. Emily. She was sitting alone at a corner table, looking thinner, older, defeated. Our eyes met across the room. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then she gave me a small, sad smile, the kind that said, "I know I don't deserve anything from you." I didn't smile back. I simply nodded once, paid my bill, and walked out. I didn't feel triumph. I felt closure. As I walked home through the bustling streets of Brooklyn, the sun warm on my face, I realized something important. I hadn't just survived the betrayal. I had become someone better because of it. Stronger, wiser, less naive. And for the first time in a very long time, I was excited about who I was becoming. The man who lost everything had finally found himself. 6 months after I sent that final message to Jake and Emily, life had settled into a new rhythm, quieter, but infinitely more mine. Jake never recovered from the scandal. Horizon Creative let him go quietly to avoid more lawsuits, but the damage was done. Word spread fast in the tight-knit advertising world of New York. He struggled to find work. Last I heard through a mutual friend, he was working at a small agency upstate, taking a massive pay cut and still trying to explain to new colleagues why his name came up in industry gossip. Emily fared no better. She left the agency shortly after Jake and moved back to her hometown in Connecticut. She sent me one last email, a long, rambling apology filled with excuses and self-pity. I read it once, then deleted it without replying. Some bridges are meant to stay burned. As for me, I took the senior creative director position at the boutique agency. The work was challenging, the team was talented, and for the first time in years, I felt respected for my ideas instead of being undermined. I even started mentoring a few young creatives who reminded me of who I used to be, ambitious, trusting, and a little too nice. But the real change wasn't in my career. It was in how I saw myself. I stopped blaming myself for trusting the wrong people. I stopped wondering what I could have done differently. Instead, I started asking better questions. What kind of man do I want to be now? What kind of life do I want to build? I went back to therapy. Not to fix the pain, but to understand it. I learned that betrayal doesn't define you, how you respond to it does. One crisp autumn evening, I was walking through Central Park when I saw her. Emily. She was sitting alone on a bench, looking smaller than I remembered. Our eyes met across the path. For a moment, neither of us moved. She gave me a small, sad nod, the kind that said, "I know I don't deserve to speak to you." I nodded back once, then kept walking. I didn't feel anger anymore. I didn't feel triumph either. I just felt free. A few weeks later, I received a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside was a single handwritten note from Jake. "Alex, I lost everything. The career. The girl. The respect. I thought I was winning the game. Turns out I was just burning the only bridge that ever mattered. I'm sorry. For what it's worth." I read it twice, then folded it and put it in the drawer with the other painful memories. I didn't reply. Some apologies come too late to fix anything. They only serve as proof that the other person finally understands the damage they caused. Life moved forward. I started dating again, slowly, carefully. No rush. I was no longer looking for someone to complete me. I was looking for someone who could walk beside the man I had become. And most importantly, I started writing. Not just for work. I started a private Substack under a pseudonym, sharing anonymous stories about betrayal, trust, and rebuilding after rock bottom. The response was overwhelming. Thousands of people from across the US and Europe wrote to me saying my words helped them feel less alone. One comment in particular stayed with me. "Thank you for showing that sometimes the greatest revenge isn't destroying the people who hurt you. It's becoming the person they could never break." That was exactly it. I didn't destroy Jake and Emily. I simply stopped letting them define my worth. And in doing so, I found the version of myself I had been searching for all along. The man who lost everything finally became the man who gained himself.